Okay, so it turns out 5 historical blunders wasn't nearly enough to cover humanity's incredible talent for catastrophic decision-making. Every single time we think surely nobody would be that reckless, history taps us on the shoulder with an industrial disaster and a body count. So we're back with 5 brand new true stories of greed, denial, and jaw-dropping negligence that were so bad they forced entire legal systems to catch up. Grab your hard hats, your rubber gloves, and maybe a respirator this time. History's about to get sticky. Literally. Number 5. The day a 2.3 million gallon tank of molasses decided that Boston's North End needed a wave pool. A wave pool made of candy death. In 1919, the Purity Distilling Company needed a massive steel tank to store molasses, which was fermented into industrial alcohol. So they rushed one up in record time. The man supervising construction couldn't actually read blueprints. No engineer ever inspected the design. No one tested whether the steel could hold the weight. Why would they? The tank leaked from day one. Locals could see it. Workers complained about it. Management's solution was to paint the tank brown so the leaks wouldn't show. On January 15, 1919, after a rapid warm-up following a cold snap, the pressure inside the tank finally won. The tank exploded outward, unleashing a 15-foot wave of molasses, moving at an estimated 35 miles per hour, faster than anyone could outrun. The wave leveled buildings, crushed a firehouse, and swept horses, wagons, and people off their feet, drowning them in solidifying sugar. 21 people died. 150 more were injured. And cleanup crews said you could still smell molasses in Boston Harbor decades later. The resulting lawsuit dragged on for 6 years and exposed just how little oversight existed for major construction. There wasn't a single law requiring anyone qualified to check the math. So states began requiring an actual licensed, certified engineer to review and stamp the blueprints of any major structure before a building permit could even be issued. That little embossed seal you'll find on construction plans today, the one that means a real professional checked the numbers. You can thank a wave of molasses for that. Number 4. The nightclub fire that proved a decorative palm tree can be just as deadly as a locked door. Boston, 1942. The Cocoanut Grove was the hottest nightclub in the city, done up with a fake tropical theme. Paper palm trees, silky cloth draped across the entire ceiling, all of it extremely flammable. The main entrance was a single revolving door. Some of the other exits had been bolted shut or hidden behind curtains to stop people from sneaking in without paying. Sound familiar? One night, a teenage busboy lit a match to see better while replacing a light bulb near a fake palm tree. The decorations caught instantly. The fire raced across the flammable ceiling drapes in seconds, and the club filled with black smoke and panic almost immediately. Hundreds of people rushed the one door they knew, the revolving door. It jammed solid under the weight of the crowd, trapping people inside a burning building, stacked against glass. The other exits were locked, hidden, or opened inward, which, as we've established, is a design choice history keeps punishing people for. 492 people died. It remains the deadliest nightclub fire in American history. The scale of the tragedy forced an immediate overhaul of fire codes, not just in Boston, but across the entire country. New laws mandated illuminated, visible exit signs, doors that swing outward, a permanent ban on flammable decorations, and strict occupancy limits that are actually enforced. It's also part of the reason revolving doors are now legally required to be flanked by a regular swinging door right next to them, just in case the fancy one jams again. Number 3. The flood that was so unfair, it broke America's entire legal definition of fault. High above Johnstown, Pennsylvania, sat an exclusive resort lake owned by a private hunting and fishing club, whose members included some of the wealthiest men in America, Andrew Carnegie among them. The lake was held back by an aging dam. The club had it modified, lowered slightly, its discharge pipes removed, so members could build a nicer road for their carriages. Nobody consulted an engineer. On May 31, 1889, after days of relentless rain, the modified dam finally gave out completely. A wall of water and debris, moving at freight train speed, obliterated the town of Johnstown 14 miles below. More than 2,200 people died in minutes. Survivors sued the club for damages. The club's lawyers argued the disaster was simply an act of God, a storm nobody could have predicted or controlled. Under the legal standards of the time, plaintiffs had to prove deliberate negligence to collect a single dollar. The club won every single case. Not one victim was ever compensated. The sheer injustice of it triggered a national outcry. Newspapers everywhere asked the obvious question: how do you modify a dam above a town and pay nothing when it kills thousands? Courts and state legislatures responded by developing a new legal doctrine: strict liability. If your structure causes catastrophic harm, you're responsible, whether you meant to or not, whether a storm helped or not. That single legal shift still underpins dam safety law and product liability law today. You can thank a bunch of rich men's private lake for that one. Number 2. The glow-in-the-dark job that companies swore was completely harmless, right up until workers' jaws started falling off. In the 1910s and 20s, factories in New Jersey and Illinois hired young women to hand-paint watch and instrument dials with radium paint so they'd glow in the dark. It was considered a glamorous, well-paying job. To keep their brush tips fine, supervisors trained the women to do something called lip dip paint. Literally point the bristles with their lips between every stroke. All day. Every day. Meanwhile, the company's own chemists handled the same radium-wearing lead aprons and using tongs because they knew exactly how dangerous it was. The company publicly insisted radium was perfectly safe. Some brands even marketed radium as a health tonic you could drink. Glowing was practically a lifestyle. Years of ingesting radium started dissolving the women's jawbones from the inside, a condition that became known as radium jaw. Their bones grew brittle, riddled with holes, and literally crumbled. When the women got sick, the company's doctors blamed literally anything else: syphilis, poor hygiene, bad luck, anything to avoid admitting the job was killing them. 5 dying women, later known as the Radium Girls, sued their employer in 1927. They were so weak some had to be sworn in from wheelchairs, raising their arms in pieces. They won a settlement. More importantly, the case established a legal precedent. Employers could now be held liable for slow, chronic occupational disease, not just sudden workplace accidents. That precedent became a cornerstone of modern workers' compensation law and industrial safety standards, decades before OSHA existed to enforce any of it. Decades later, when some of the women's bodies were examined, their bones were still radioactive enough to fog photographic film. Some things just don't let go. And finally, number 1. The drug so undertested that one stubborn government employee single-handedly saved an entire country from disaster. In the late 1950s, a new drug called thalidomide hit the market across Europe, Canada, and dozens of other countries, marketed as a perfectly safe sedative and a cure for morning sickness in pregnant women. The catch: it had barely been tested on pregnant women at all. Under the drug laws of the time, companies only had to prove a drug was reasonably safe. Nobody had to prove it actually worked or was safe for a developing fetus. Tens of thousands of babies worldwide were born with severe limb malformations, along with damage to their hearts, eyes, and internal organs. It became one of the largest man-made medical disasters in history. In the United States, one single FDA reviewer, Dr. Frances Kelsey, refused to approve the drug. Application after application, she kept demanding more safety data the company couldn't provide. The manufacturer pressured her, called her petty, called her difficult. She held her ground anyway, for over a year, armed with nothing but paperwork and sheer stubbornness. Because of her, the US market was almost entirely spared from the tragedy unfolding everywhere else. Thalidomide had already reached some American patients through trials, but nowhere near the scale seen abroad. When the scale of the disaster abroad became public, Congress realized just how easily the same catastrophe could have happened here, and moved fast. In 1962, President Kennedy signed the Kefauver-Harris Amendment into law. For the first time, drug companies had to prove a medication actually worked, using real, controlled clinical trials before it could reach a single pharmacy shelf. That single law is the entire legal foundation of how every modern drug gets approved today. Control groups, randomization, mountains of data, all because one woman refused to rubber stamp a form. Dr. Kelsey was later awarded the President's Award for Distinguished Federal Civilian Service. Not bad for someone the drug company considered an annoying paperwork problem. So there you have it, 5 more disasters where negligence, denial, and a total disregard for human life quietly rewrote the rulebook. Next time you see an engineer's seal on a blueprint, a fire exit sign, a liability waiver, or the fine print on a prescription bottle, you're looking at someone's tragedy, boiled down into a regulation. Which of these 5 shocked you the most? And is there a weirdly specific law out there you're just dying to know the backstory of? Tell me in the comments. Hit subscribe, smash that like button, and maybe, just maybe, don't lick your paintbrush at work. See you next time.